is a reading of Revolting, Eco-Absurdist Rebellion by Julian Chapter 3, Domestication and Kafka. 1. In a small collection of techno-pessimist writings that I invited a handful of friends to contribute to, called Daedalus Fails, there is an essay written by Artemis Graham Thoreau, AGT, on the subject of domestication. AGT's piece is motivated by the affirmation that they begin the piece with, that anarcho-primitivism has not solved the idea of domestication effectively. Then they share their desire that the essay be the start of a conversation, which I am seeking to continue here with this piece of writing. My intention is to respond to the subject of domestication not from a dialectical attempt to negate an antithesis or synthesize a contradiction within a thesis. I find the dialectical method to be largely the method of totalitarianism and have no desire to embrace it. Anarcho-primitivism, due primarily to Cézanne taking influence from Adorno, largely relies on the method of negative dialectics. My instinct is that this goes a significant way towards accounting for why I see anarcho-primitivism as limited. As a different conversational approach to that of dialectics, I am choosing to approach this with an intention of Gestalt dialogue, as a phenomenological response rather than an attempt at analysis. This is a note from the reader here. I can't pronounce phenomenological. I'm going to continue to say that wrong if it comes up again. Sorry. Okay, back to the text. I write this with an awareness that my intention to be non-dialectical and my revolt towards dialectics will be revolting for individuals who prefer that method. Those of socialist, revolutionary, left orientation will no doubt be particularly revolted, since Marx's Hegelianism has rendered dialectics a popular fetish amidst that ideological collective. To respond to AGT's invitation to conversation, I revisited some writings by anarcho-primitivists on the subject of domestication. I have chosen to focus on four-legged humans, the wind that roars ferociously, Kevin Tucker's Suffocating Void, and Renzo Connor's Thoughts on Domestication and Wildness. There were two main observations that I made whilst reviewing these pieces. The first observation was that of noticing a focus on separation. The second observation was with regards to the epistemology embraced and subsequent methods of escape. Separation is a theme that Connors applies to domesticated individuals, those he considers to be separated from wildness. Only a tiny percent of humans that inhabit the earth still live wild, free, and living autonomously. The rest are imprisoned within the concrete and metal structures of techno-industrial society. The theme of actual separation in non-ecological thinking seems to extend largely from the dialectical approach employed by anarcho-primitivists. If wildness is the thesis and civilization is the antithesis that is seeking to negate the thesis, then the logic of separation works. But this idea of separation strikes me as intensely de-ecological. The main affirmation of ecological thought is that all individual living beings are, in a multiplicity of differentiating ways, connected and in a relationship, or in relationship rather, sorry. In feral consciousness, I sought to affirm that the reality of separation is an illusion, which for me fits the Maya paradox of being a reality that exists but is not real. Individuals believe it is real, as this is what this culture teaches, and they internalize this dialectic. This internalization is something that Kevin Tucker speaks of. The domestication process lies in its ability to be internalized, but it seems to have internalized intensely himself, as has Connors and most other within the ideology. As such, the anarcho-primitivist conception of domestication falls for the illusion that civilization is built upon thus fails to adequately provide anything enabling an ability to respond to it. It is not a freeing perspective, but one of bad faith, creating a reality tunnel where wildness has been truly lost. This is the main failure of anarcho-primitivist thought, and why I have never fully embraced the tendency. My second observation regarding the anarcho-primitivist concept of domestication is that of epistemology, and how much that plays into the notion of what I see as escapism. Anarcho-primitivists continually use anthropological and historical accounts, which come largely from academic institutions, mega machines producing data for statist corporatist purposes. This is then positioned as a means of escape, as four-legged human does. Today we have the historical and anthropological knowledge to lead us out of the despair created by 10,000 years of domestication. The positioning of anthropology and history as the knowledge that enlightens us to what domestication is and the pathway out is one of the weakest aspects of anarcho-primitivist thought. Anthropological and historical reconstruction follows the choreographical designs of others, which have been reverse engineered by so-called experts. This does not inspire anything within me for desirable revolt. The practice is also largely not relevant to me within the habitat where I live, which, after several thousand years of empire and domestication, has no indigenous culture to draw from. Perhaps in other environments, with surviving indigenous cultures, there is more value to the practice, but I would question why any individual would seek to learn from anthropologists and historical records rather than asking indigenous individuals who are open to guiding individuals in their praxis. But even then, what does this escapism really mean when considered ecologically, as it looks like just separation mythology and all the de-ecological nonsense that goes with that? In a way that is neither complete rejection nor embrace, I feel revolted by primitivist thought. Rather, I feel revoltingly positive, as I would wish from dialogic praxis, inspired to rebel further, and able to affirm the difference in praxis without any push to negate. My attention is brought to the matter of domestication and the conversation of what is and whether or not it is desirable. My intention is to affirm stories that are intended as stories rather than stories that are intended as objective, truthfully true, knowledge that is objective, as a means of communicating and having a conversation on the subject of domestication. Stories that I reference include Kafka's Metamorphosis and Quinn's Ishmael books and character. These are stories that I value and appreciate for being works on domestication and being animal, which I find beautiful. Here I focus on Kafka's A Report to an Academy and the chimpanzee narrator who was giving a report to a group of academies on their capture, domestication, and education in learning to speak. And the aspects of a report to an academy that I am choosing to focus on here are whatever memories I might have had close themselves off from me more and more. Press yourself against the bar behind you till it almost slices you in half, for you won't find a reason for that either. No, it wasn't freedom I was just after, just a way out. There were two possibilities open to me: zoo or variety theatre. Whatever memories I might have had closed themselves off from me more and more. These words hit me with a deep and powerful affirming sadness on each occasion I read them. They bring to my mind the great forgetting that is a part of the philosophy that Quinn articulates in his Ishmael stories. The great forgetting is the no longer remembering of being, wildlife, the core wound of domestication. Kafka's chimpanzees' memories, their membering amidst the wild world, being closed off to them, strikes me as utterly revolting. What I notice most intensely, though, is how much memory is a psychological phenomenon and how much it is about the psychic relationality. This suggests that at the core of healing the wounds of domestication, if domestication is forgetting, is remembering/remembering. This brings my attention to Metamorphosis, Kafka's most famous work, and how well he depicts the pains and struggles of becoming animal and being animal that this remembering has potential to involve, the rejection experienced by family and friends being viewed as something revolting, which has the potential to inspire hostility and violence in conformity with domesticating negation. Press yourself against a bar behind you till it almost slices you in half. You won't find a reason for that either. The push for reasons is one of the biggest discomforts I've felt with the explanations of why civilization was built, why we are here as we are, the historizations of how Leviathan came to be as it is. Sorry. More than the inauthenticity of claimed knowledge, given that no living individual has any experience of the events that led to the rise of civilization, nor most of the historical construction of Leviathan. I am mostly revolted by what strikes me as an attempt to transcend the unreasonableness of this machinery and these cages. Like Kafka's chimpanzee, I find no reason for any of this, and am revolted by the causes used to justify the negativity, violence, and abuse. The truth of my authentic experience is that Leviathan's absurdity is an unreasonable presence. I find it revolting. No, it wasn't freedom I was after, just a way out. In this quote, Kafka's chimpanzee embraces the attempted renunciation of freedom that I see as a huge part of Leviathan's humanizing process through seeking a way out. Leviathan as attempted escape from wildlife. In this context, domestication means the attempt to seek a way out as separation. In becoming humanized, the chimpanzee embraces the inside-outside illusion of separation, which is understandable given the de-ecological context of the cage they found themselves within. Most of the causes and ideologies I have encountered espouse seeking ways out with little embrace of freedom. Libertarians are seeking ways out of relationship with government through systematizing worlds without government, rather than embracing revolt in the context of a world where government exists. Socialists are seeking ways out of relationship with capitalism through systematizing industrial narratives without capitalism, rather than seeking to revolt within this world where capitalism exists. Greens are seeking ways out of climate change through systematizing technological and legal fixes to survive global warming, rather than revolting against this leviathan that has birthed global warming and is fueling its growth. Desertionists, nihilists, and escapists of post-left anarchist orientations are seeking ways out of this leviathan through all manners of different pathways, rather than revolting against leviathan in the here and now. As with Kafka's chimpanzee, I can appreciate this effort in seeking ways out, but I don't believe in ways out. I see escapism as life-renouncing psychic/philosophical suicide, if not actual suicide, so I cannot embrace this praxis. I am freely choosing to embrace the absurd freedom of revolt against what I find revolting here and now. There were two possibilities open to me: zoo or variety theatre. The zoo or variety theatre, these options, which Kafka's humanized chimpanzee considers, symbolize the responsibilities offered within domestication, imprisonment, or the performance of participating within Leviathan. This is one of the most severe lies of domestication. You either participate in the performance of being human as participating in productivity and industry, or you are caged, put in prison until you are broken and willing to conform. But life includes far more potentialities than just these, many terrible and many wonderful. The horror of freedom is not that it is absent, but there are so many potential choices to make. So many undesirable options are easier, with quick rewards that require little embrace of responsibility/freedom. Desirable options, within the context of Leviathan, are frequently harder choices. In embracing the domestication of humanization, Kafka's chimpanzee has renounced revolt and does so by embracing variety theatre. Does Kafka's story provide a full analytical account of domestication? No, but it does provide a story that is far more impactful than the majority of anarcho-primitivist writings. Storytelling is largely needed in its healing from domestication. It is a huge part of the sharing of experience, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge of those who do not live within Leviathan. Storytelling is a wonderful means of dialogic practice, an alternative to dialectical analyses that seek to negate or assimilate. The sharing of stories contains the potential for being with difference. This is largely what has inspired my efforts in the eco-absurdist short stories. As I end this piece, I am wondering about the stories of domestication and anti-domestication that might live out in the world, and what revolts they might inspire and how revolting they might be.